Well, even though we don't want him making the decisions, Chris Grier's phone is ringing a lot because there are a ton of teams calling the Miami Dolphins looking to trade with Grier to get some of these players. I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We had the initial report earlier this week on Wednesday from our guy Ricky Scoops that said the Dolphins are actively shopping Jaelan Phillips, and it sounds like a name that will likely be traded, but teams are also calling about Bradley Chubb, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane. So there are 5 players that are presumed trade candidates for Miami. Jalen Waddle, which I think is very, very dumb, but we'll see if it ultimately happens. Bradley Chubb, Jaelan Phillips, another player in Devon Achane, which I think is very, very dumb. And then Jalen Wright is a player that I expect to have some interest as well, and I could see Miami trading if they're going to rock with Achane and Gordon as the RB duo of the future. So there are a lot of players that we have to talk about, and there's a lot of interesting new rumors and reports coming out this week. So we're going to talk about the top trade rumors around this football team. But make sure you follow me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. We're on the road to 3,000 followers, but we got to get to 2,500 first, 67 followers away. If the Dolphins do ultimately make a trade, I'll have the news on my Twitter before we come on the channel and make a video, so we'll give me a follow right now. We're going to start with one of the more egregious ones I've seen outside of the Giants and Jalen Waddle. It's the fact that the Seattle Seahawks might want Devon Achane. Tony Pauline, reporter with about 50,000 followers on Twitter, put out an article that says, a rumor I'm hearing is a possible straight up, referring to Tariq Woolen, weak Woolen actually, trade to the Dolphins for Devon Achane, a move that the Seahawks would make if the opportunity existed. Even if no such deal is available, Seattle could make a move for the ball carrier if Miami continues to lose games and sell off pieces. What is going on? Like, I truly do feel like I am that meme of the dog in the fire with everything burning around. I really do feel like that. Like, I'm sitting here knowing the Dolphins should sell most of their players. But I also know that the 2 best young building blocks are Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle. Yet those are the players that are the hottest names in the trade rumor mill right now. I can't stand it. And just like I said with Jalen Waddle, I do not want to trade him. But I understand if you get an unbelievable Godfather-esque offer that you'd have to consider the deal. So, like I said a couple of videos ago on Jalen Waddle, I'll say the same thing with Achane. It would have to be an unreal deal. And we heard from Pauline say that they would consider, Seattle that is, Woolen in draft capital for Devon Achane. So, I don't know if this is what they would offer. I don't know if they would be willing to. But if I were to even consider trading Devon Achane to the Seahawks, this is what I would at least need it to look like. I would need to get Tariq Woolen. I would need to get a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick in return for Devon Achane. I just would need to. Simply put, that is the bare minimum if I'm trading him to Seattle. Would you make this trade? More thoughts coming up in here in a second, but type A for accept, type D for decline. Would you take Tariq Woolen, a second and a fourth, for Devon Achane? Now, no matter what you think, I don't understand why Seattle would do this. I don't know why the Seahawks are interested in Devon Achane at all. I don't even know if they are. Could be a report that isn't the most accurate. But they have Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Why do they need Devon Achane? Like, I get it. Achane is a top 5 back in football, one of the most dynamic guys out there with his ability to make plays in the passing game. But, like, is that really going to elevate Seattle to a point where they are amongst the elite in the NFL? Just not sure that's the case. And with Tariq Woolen, this could be a good returning player for the Dolphins because the Miami has no future at cornerback, None. This is a former 5th-round pick who went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie while leading the NFL in interceptions. But the reason why he's such a fascinating young guy, he's 26 years old, but his size and athleticism. I mean, 6'4", 210, and running a 4.26 40 is flat out created Madden player type of stuff. It is. And when he flashed onto the scene, he was phenomenal. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, as I mentioned. Like, his coverage grades are terrific. But he declined last season and has had a rough 2025 campaign so far, allowing a 72.2% completion percentage, a 123.1 QB rating. Like, it hasn't been pretty for Woolen over the last 2 seasons. I think it's because he really doesn't fit in the Mike McDonald defensive scheme. Because remember, placed Pete Carroll a couple of years ago, and that is exactly when Woolen's production started to decline. So maybe in the right scheme and system, he could flourish. Now, there are 2 ways to look at this fact I'm going to bring up about Woolen being a free agent this upcoming offseason. You could be like, well, I don't really have that much value in him because he is going to be a free agent and going to need a payday. So there's not a lot of value there. But you can also say, okay, this is a player that I would target in free agency, and maybe instead of not being able to sign him, I could trade for him now and extend him so I have him on the roster. There's 2 ways to look at it. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid. So simple to play. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats. And if you are right, you could cash in. There's so many different ways to play. Flex play, power play. You can also do stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Devon Achane rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns. You can have all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. I have an entry in for Week 7. I am going more than on Devon Achane rushing attempts, less than Dylan Gabriel longest completion, less than Tua Tagovailoa longest completion, and more than on Quinshon Judkins rushing yards. Supposed to be a rainy, windy game in Cleveland this Sunday, so I'm going with that. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Before we move over to some other trade talk, final word on Devon Achane. I am not trading him unless I get a Godfather offer. I got to be honest, I don't think I view that one from Seattle in that light. We talked about an Achane trade earlier in the week in how I would want something similar to a return that the Panthers got for Christian McCaffrey a couple of years from San Francisco. I mean, the Panthers got a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, and a 5th-round pick for McCaffrey. McCaffrey was 26 when he got traded. Achane is 24. And I get it. McCaffrey was either the 1st or 2nd best running back in football when he was traded. But I would argue Achane is just in that same kind of vein. Like, with Saquon and Derrick Henry taking steps back this year, could you argue it's like Achane, Bijan, and CMC right now? Yeah, you could. Like, that's absolutely something in discussion here. So, like, I think you could get multiple day 2 picks and maybe even a 1st. Like, Achane and McCaffrey are very similar in the beginning of their careers. So, unless I get a Godfather offer, I'm not trading Devon Achane. More trade rumors coming up now. Let's focus on the edge rushers that we've talked a lot about this week and over the last couple of weeks. Well, we're going to continue to talk about them because, well, they are the most likely players to be traded. Could Waddle and Achane get dealt? Sure, could. Likely, probably less than Phillips and Chubb. And I wanted to re-hit this report from Mike K, which we talked about a video yesterday on. Texting with an NFC executive this week, the pass rusher trade market will have a supply and demand issue because there will be way more teams looking to trade for edge rushers than teams trading away, which means there will be a robust market for Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb at the trade deadline. Like, if there are a lot of teams looking to add edge rushers and not a lot of teams trading for or trading away edge rushers, well, Miami can sit here with both 2 players tradable, Phillips and Chubb, and maybe say, okay, it's a bidding war. Up those offers up. Like, this is tremendous for the Dolphins. Because if Phillips' trade value was a 4th-round pick and Chubb's value was a 6th-round pick, it may now be a 3rd-round pick for Jaelan Phillips and a fourth or fifth round pick for Bradley Chubb. So these numbers could be really good for Miami. It's really good. And we're going to talk more about some trade offers here in a second. But lock us in, because we'll be live on trade deadline day, and we'll be here for every piece of Dolphins news and rumors around trade deadline. So subscribe, lock us in for daily Dolphins coverage. Now, I did want to look at a trade idea thrown out there by ESPN, because Bill Barnwell suggested that Jaelan Phillips could be traded to the Detroit Lions. Very fascinating idea, because the Lions have Aiden Hutchinson, but they also dealt with so many injuries a year ago to their defensive line where they might want to shore it up before it gets a little bit dicey. So the trade idea that they threw out there from ESPN was Jaelan Phillips and a 7th-round pick for a 4th-round pick. So it's a pick swap where Miami nets a 4th-rounder and the 7th-rounder, and Jaelan Phillips goes to Detroit. Now, I don't really like this trade whatsoever, if I'm going to be honest, because I think in this market you may be able to get a 3rd-round pick for Jaelan Phillips, and I don't think Miami, even if it is a standard market, should have to add a pick to get Jaelan Phillips a 4th-round pick in return. Like, I think it should be Jaelan Phillips for a 4th straight up, Jaelan Phillips for a 3rd straight up. Those are the two that I would do. If I did Jaelan Phillips in a 7th, I would want a 3rd-round pick back, because I would want to have another top 100 selection. Now, I will say this. With Bradley Chubb, I would do a pick swap. I think adding a selection to Bradley Chubb to get a better pick in return makes a ton of sense for the Dolphins, because Jaelan Phillips' trade value is just simply put way higher than Bradley Chubb's. And yes, Chubb has quadruple the sack production this season than Phillips. Phillips has been way better in terms of setting the edge in the run game. He has been way better on film at forcing pressure and getting after the quarterback and winning his pass rush rep, 19% pass rush win rate compared to Chubb's 11.1%. And it just simply, unfortunately, hasn't got the production that's deserved. But Phillips is also way younger than Chubb, right? Playing on a 5th-year rookie option right now. Meanwhile, Chubb's pushing almost 30 years old. So a trade idea that I had was a team in San Francisco that desperately needs to add an edge rusher with Nick Bosa sidelined for the year. I think adding a 5th-round pick to Bradley Chubb to get the 49ers' 3rd-round pick in 2026 makes a ton of sense. And it's something I would do. Because if you could get a top 100 pick in return for Bradley Chubb, that is a win. And moving up from the 5th to the 3rd and getting rid of Chubb, that is a win. You would have $23 million in dead cap next season if you did this trade. But you would save $7 million as well heading into the offseason. So, yeah, the $23 million in dead cap is brutal, but saving $7 million entering free agency and moving up from the 5th to the 3rd is a very justifiable way to move off Bradley Chubb. And I would rather do this type of trade than trade him just for a 6th-round pick. Because in that case, is the $7 million in savings and $23 million in dead cap worth trading a guy for a pick in the 180s? Probably not, right? But I would trade both. Like, I would do both those deals at the deadline. I would trade Jaelan Phillips for a 3rd, and I would trade that deal for Bradley Chubb. Like, if you could somehow land yourself 2 3rd-round picks at the deadline, and all you give up is Chubb, Phillips, and a 5th for 2 3rds, sign me up. Because you're already projected to have 2 3rd-round picks this year. Your own and the pick you got by trading out of last year's 4th-round pick from the Texans, right? Remember that trade? You could have 4 3rd-round picks this year if you did both the trades that I threw out there and then the 2 that you already have. You could either make 4 picks in the 3rd round and add potentially 6 players in the top 100 of this 2026 draft, 1st, 2nd, and 4 in the 3rd, or you can package some of those 3rd-round picks to move up in the 2nd round to help move yourself up into the 1st round and make an abundance of deals to add a lot of young talent. It would set yourselves up for success going in the future. Let me know, should the Dolphins trade both Bradley Chubb and Jaelan Phillips? Let me know if they should trade both. Type Y for yes, or type N for no. Final word on today's show. Expect a lot of rumors the next 3 weeks. We've seen it with Jalen Waddle. We're starting to see it with Devon Achane. And we've already seen it with Bradley Chubb and Jaelan Phillips. Like, the November 4th trade deadline is going to be a whirlwind. And we're filming this on our live show, October 16th. It's a Thursday. We got 7, 14, in about 4 days. So about 17, 18 days until the deadline. I think we might see different rumors and new rumors every day on Dolphins players. So if you're frustrated with the trade talk, I apologize, because it's what's going to dominate our content between now and then, because it's the biggest talking point with this team already out of the playoff race almost. And if you're ready for more trade rumors, well, subscribe and lock us in, because we will have you up to date with everything you need to know.